What's the up, nerds? I hope you're having a fantastic whatever day it is, wherever you happen to be having your day. I'm here. I'm alive. Apologize. I voted today. I have Taco Bell breakfast. It's gonna be a good day. I'm just saying. So, anyways, this fortnight on Project Nerdy, we are looking forward to the release of the new Fantastic Beasts Crimes of Grindlewald movie. And we want to open up the discussion regarding Johnny Depp's casting in the franchise and some of the allegations that went along with that. And also the larger conversation of whether or not people's personal lives should affect their work and, you know, their future business opportunities. So, we are going to leave the question pretty open-ended, and we're going to open up the time limit because we want to make sure everybody has plenty of time to talk about the things they want to talk about and share their perspectives. My perspective, personally, is being informed by my jury service here a couple weeks ago. So it's been like 4 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. I was selected to be on a jury for a trial. It was a 3-day murder trial. It was one of the most exhausting and roughest weeks of my life, and I learned a lot. One of the things that I learned that I think I knew instinctively, but I didn't really understand, was that in our judicial system, the defendant, anybody, is innocent until proven guilty. And what this means from a juror's perspective is that you go into the courtroom presuming innocence on behalf of the defendant. And it is only at such time as the prosecution provides enough evidence to prove their guilt that you find them guilty. So if things kind of line up, but there's still not enough to really prove their guilt, you have to find them innocent. You have to assume their innocence. What this has made me think about here in the last few weeks is this thing where culturally we're in this place of wanting to listen to victims, which is fantastic. Listen to people, hear their stories. But I think as a culture, we are also quick to presume people's guilt across the board. So in this instance, if you're not familiar with the controversy surrounding Johnny Depp's casting in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, Johnny Depp was part of some domestic abuse allegations with his ex-wife. They were married about a year. She filed for divorce and filed for a restraining order right around the same time, to the best of my understanding. And the restraining order was later dropped. The divorce was settled outside of court. And I did some reading up here the last few days, just trying to gather my thoughts together and trying to gather as much information as I possibly could. I found sources that said, Johnny Depp must be an abuser. Here are, 2 or 3 instances from the past where he's been violent. I've seen, on the flip side of it, sources that said that his ex-wife, she's an actress, she's been fake before, this is obviously a show for her to get more money out of the divorce. And I was looking at those things and thinking about, why do we assume the worst in people? We have this cultural understanding, and we're very wary of people. We understand that abuse is rampant in our society. It's a conversation that we need to continue to be having. But on the flip side, where did we make the change from presuming people to be innocent until proven guilty to looking at a handful of facts and saying, well, this person must be guilty? In this particular scenario and instance, personally, I don't feel like I personally have enough information and life experience and qualifications and understanding to make any sort of educated decision regarding Johnny Depp's involvement with his wife, his status as an abuser, or, you know, his casting in this franchise. I recognize that I come from a place of privilege, both in my gender and in my upbringing, and in my life experience. You know, I personally have not experienced abuse. I'm not familiar enough with, you know, the psychology that's involved, you know, some of those other things. So what I have to do and have to continue to do is to lean on the opinions and the understanding of people that are more qualified than myself. So to that end, if you have more information about this particular instance and situation that I maybe wouldn't have access to or maybe have missed, I would invite you to share that in the comments, and, you know, you can send it to us on Twitter, whatever the case may be, because I do want to be the most educated that I can be, and I want to have the best information that I possibly can. Part of that too is from an HR standpoint. In regular, you know, kind of corporate life, when there are allegations, there is an investigation. HR does an investigation, they speak to all parties involved, and they make a decision to the best of their ability. In Hollywood, because people are going from project to project, that process is a little grayer to my understanding. I'm not in Hollywood. There may be a specific process that is delineated for those situations. I hope there is, and I'm certain there is. But in this case, I would presume that HR entity to be J.K. Rowling and her creative team. And in looking at the statement that was released, it reads as if they did their due diligence and they did the investigation, that they felt they had enough information to come to a conclusion regarding Depp's casting and in the franchise and his attachment to the franchise. Part of me wants to trust and to lean on that decision. I see Rowling as a credible, reliable source. I know this decision cast doubt on that in a lot of people's minds. And again, if you have other information, if you have more information, I want to hear it. So leave it in the comments, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, though, in the larger conversation, I do believe that your actions and our actions as people have consequences. And sometimes those consequences flow over to our financial lives. They can affect your life forever. And, you know, sometimes that is from a legal criminal, you end up with this record, you end up in jail. Sometimes that is, you know, by reputation. Your reputation becomes tarnished. People don't want to work with you. And I think that's completely valid. Two situations that I was thinking about this week in regards to this kind of idea. The first would be Harvey Weinstein. We had so many people come forward with their allegations and their stories against Harvey Weinstein that it became credible. It was, you know, there was a good, solid amount of information and stories, and I believe it affected his career. If it hasn't, it should have. The other scenario, the other situation that I was thinking about was Roseanne Barr and the show Roseanne. We can go back and look at her tweets. We can go back and look at the things that she said in interviews, and understand that her position is not the greatest. And so obviously that has affected her livelihood, and that has affected the people around her. You know, we don't live in a vacuum. The things that we say, the things that we do affect the people around us, and they have consequences. So I absolutely believe that if things are going on, it should affect your job. It should affect your future as a creative person. Those are just natural consequences that exist in our world and should exist in our world, and people need to be held accountable for the things that they've done. You know, I saw one part of an interview with Depp where he talked about that, you know, this has now affected his kids, that this could potentially affect his earnings in the future, which would affect them, and why would you take, you know, why would you take money away from his kids? To which my response was, if that's the case, these they didn't take the money away from your kids, you took the money away from your kids. When you put yourself in that situation, and you make those choices, it affects your kids. It affects the people in your life. So, I think it is wise for all of us to be aware of our actions, that our actions have consequences, that our words have consequences, and to be held accountable. At the end of the day, the flip side of that is, in my personal opinion, if there is change, if there is repentance, if there is a possibility for reconciliation and growth on the behalf of those individuals, as a person of faith, as a person who desires to see reconciliation, I would want those avenues to be open to those people. Their lives are going to be forever changed. That there's no question about that. But that does not mean that they can't come back from that. And my hope and my prayer is always that people are able to learn and people are able to grow, and to move forward in their lives and to be better people. So those are my thoughts. I hope it wasn't too terribly convoluted. Again, let's continue this conversation. The rest of the nerds are going to be talking about this topic this fortnight. We want to hear your thoughts in the comments. You can tweet us at Twitter, you know, follow us on Facebook, all of those things. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace and blessings, fam. And Holly, we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye, fam.